Now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is Dari Nowkhah. Dari, should I introduce you as SEC Network point guard or host of the new best radio show in the great state of Oklahoma?
Both. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
I think I'm good with both. Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so
they
tell
both
the
work
people
me a
about
lot.
this because,
Yeah.
yeah, tell the people like how this kind of came to be because I think for a lot of people, you see people in media and they see someone like you that gets to do, a variety of things with SEC Network, and they might not think anything of you adding another thing to your already ridiculous workload, but getting to do a regular show at your alma mater like this while still holding on to your SEC Network duties is really unique, and I think kind of an awesome thing. I told you about it at SEC Media Days.
Man, I appreciate it. It has been awesome. I did not for a second think this coming. So the radio station is called KREF, KREF. It's technically in Norman, but the vast majority of its listenership is via the app. So it's KREF app. And they do really well on that app. They call themselves the home of Sooner fans, but really it's a lot of SEC talk, Thunder talk, which I'm all in on. We're still celebrating and all that good stuff. But I didn't. So one of my good friends, Toby Rowland, longtime voice of the Sooners, had a morning show on there, 6 to 9 local time, and he got hired as a sports director at the CBS affiliate in OKC. So it's like working too late, can't do an early radio show. And I'm like, I can't either. But he hit me up and he said, "Would you ever have any interest in doing local radio?" And I was like, "No, honestly, I've never ever had that." And then it said in Oklahoma, and that part of it kind of intrigued me because I'm like, home state, identify really well with the people in that state, identify well with OU. A lot of good contacts at OU and in the outside throughout the SEC that I can bring in. Um, Local radio, it's by nature really loose, and it if we can make the time work, that would be great. And so Chris Plank, who does a lot of stuff on Sirius XM, Fox
Love
Sports,
Chris.
yeah, you know Plank, right? So he does the next show, which was 9 to 12, and we had a couple of conversations, and Plank was like, "I'll go 6 to 9. I'd love to have that shift. It's better for my schedule." And I said, "Well, I'll take 9 to 12, but we've got to get ESPN to clear it." And Connor, that was the longest process because it took them a month. And I honestly did not think they were going to clear it. And there were some others inside ESPN that were like, I wouldn't get your hopes up on this, but they came through and they're letting me do it. And I'm having an absolute blast doing it, man. I love it.
You've been at ESPN for 20 years, and that probably helps. And it probably helps too that I could have introduced you as voice of reason at SEC Network. PB is great. I love
Yeah.
PB, and there are a lot of great people, but PB himself would admit he's not the
Yeah.
voice of reason at this
Yeah.
point. But it probably helps that you're so level headed that I don't think they have to worry about you saying all these inflammatory things on those airways. But at the same time, you're doing this at a time in which Oklahoma fans are a little bit on edge, and they're kind of
Yeah.
like, man, they can kind of sense a changing of the tides. So like, what's that dynamic been like, knowing that you kind of got to walk a little bit of a line there?
So on the show, um, it's well known that I'm an OU person, right? It's even on the SEC network. I can't go one show without Doring making a reference to it, or beat Ben Watson making a reference to it. Basketball, it's the same thing. I've never hidden where I go to school, but I'm certainly never going to outwardly root for one side over the other. That doesn't change on this station. So on the station, will I occasionally let a we slip out or an us if I'm talking about OU? Yeah, it happens because I mean I'm surrounded by all these OU people. I'm looking at these texts that are flying in on this text line that we have. I'm talking to a producer that's an OU guy. We're talking about OU so much it just slips out sometimes. But I will not, and I apologize if you hear texts come in. I can't do anything about that. But I never know if that comes over the air. I think it does, but whatever. Um, but I also like I'm really fair to the other teams in the SEC, right? I mean, I'll get hit for it from the listeners when I talk about how great Steve Sarkisian is. I've had Shane Beamer on. I've had Mark Stoops come on. Eli Drinkwitz, who they don't love, frankly, the fan base doesn't love, but he's come on. We've had a lot of fun with all this. So I'm bringing on really good guests, which they like. but I'm not hiding the OU thing. But at the same time, I'm certainly not disrespecting any other schools or programs while I'm on that show.
How many texts are you getting on that text line related to Greg Sankey reaching out to him to discuss the Oklahoma schedule?
It's early in the show. It did. I went on a rant last week. I'm so tired of talking about the schedule, Connor. Like,
Yeah.
the schedule is what it is. I'm a big believer in not worrying about things you can't control. We can complain and whine about it all we want and how Texas got this and how OU got this, and it does no good. Like, if OU is good enough to be a playoff team, they'll manage the schedule the way they have to manage the schedule. And if they're not, then they won't. Like, I know this, if they get to the playoff, and some people think that they can, and some people think that they will, and make those kinds of strides, they will be prepared for anybody they see in that playoff. So I'm kind of over the schedule thing, but yeah, people still want to complain about it. I realize Texas got a better, more favorable schedule than OU did, but I'm also, look, we're sitting here and we're complaining about this schedule based upon what we think these teams will be. They may not be, right? I mean, Austin Simmons may not be the second coming. South Carolina's defense might catch up to them. Joey Aguilar may not be Josh Heupel's answer. Missouri may not be able to adequately replace so many offensive starters that they lost this season. It may not end up shaking out to be what it looks like on paper. So I'm kind of over the complaining about it thing.
Are you over talking about John Mateer and Venmo?
I hope we're all over talking about John Mateer and Venmo. It was stupid. Like, my biggest thing is when it came out is I just assumed it was something that somebody created and sent out there and to try to get him in trouble. I was disappointed when I heard it was his actual Venmo, because that's really bad decision making to put sports gambling on the transaction, even if it's not. And I certainly hope his decision making as a quarterback on the field is better than that, because that was stupid. That was really, really stupid. But I think it's died down. Um, Hopefully, we don't hear about some investigation from the NCAA. My guess is this, Connor: if there's any semblance of real on it, like receipt found that there was a gambling transaction, that fires up an investigation, and it should. Otherwise, he says, I was paying the dude back for a couple of cheeseburgers he bought me. There's no proof of anything else, and I don't know what you can do about it.
If there's a real takeaway from this, like a real legitimate, no matter what side you're of this argument you're on, if you're a Texas fan that's, spent time since then just photoshopping different things attached to this just for the
Yeah.
sake of entertainment, like there's something to be gained. I do think John Mateer is very quickly learning this is the big time. Like, I saw
Mhm.
his eyes get big when he showed up at his podium at SEC Media Days, and he's looking around going like, whoa. And I hate to do the it just means more thing, but it did. And this could be another one of those wake up calls to him of like, man, this ain't Little Elm, Texas or
Yeah.
Pullman, Washington
Yeah.
anymore. And if there's maybe that's the positive spin for an Oklahoma fan is like, all right, he's getting his welcome to the SEC moment before he even steps on an SEC field.
He's at Media Days, he came on the set with four of us, and he was nervous. I thought he adjusted quickly, but I know that he was nervous. We were doing an interview with him via satellite for a preseason show, and I heard him getting mic'd up in Norman saying, I'm a little nervous about it. He didn't know we could hear him. But then he relaxes and settles into it. This is a different world. So that is the message. The message is this: everything you do is going to be magnified. Everything. If you Venmo a dude back for cheeseburgers, you write cheeseburgers. You don't even consider something like gambling. Everywhere you go, you will be videoed. Like, it's your life has changed once you left Pullman, Washington, and came to Norman, Oklahoma. That's a fact, and I think he'll be fine with that. There's a level of maturity and leadership about him that people rave about, Connor, in Norman, and that was a stupid mistake a few years back. But yeah, hopefully he grows and learns from it.
What's a fair expectation for him? Because on one hand, he takes over what was arguably the worst offense in Oklahoma history, and on the other hand, you see
Yeah.
the comps to Baker, and like the spectrum is just all over the place. Is all SEC the expectation for you? Is it just holding down the starting job? Like, where are you kind of at with him going into the season?
Based on the fact that he's 3 years into an offense now, and that's the offense that he's in, and his familiarity with Ben Arbuckle, his ability to, and I've heard many people talk about his ability to teach the offense to everybody else on that offense, whether it's the 5 linemen in front of them, the tight ends who are yet to be unnamed or named, a new group of wide receivers, because this offense is new to every one of them. It's been like staggering. His willingness to get in his receiver's face if they run a wrong route, to get on the right guard if he doesn't pick up his assignment, whatever it might be. So, based upon his familiarity with the offense and his leadership, I expect him to be an all SEC quarterback, second, third team, whatever that may be. I expect, and a lot of it will go as far as his offensive line goes, and that's obviously the biggest question mark on that entire team on either side of the football. But no, I do. I expect him to be one of the 2 or 3 best QBs in this league, and I expect an offense that's top half of the league, and a team because of it, and the defense we know it has, that'll be competing for an opportunity to go to the playoff late in the season.
I think a fascinating storyline that I'm not sure how many people outside of Norman are talking about, at least as it relates to Brent Venables. But how does the Joe Castiglione retirement, somebody who's been in that role since you graduated Oklahoma, like
Yeah,
'98, we're
yeah.
talking, like how does his retirement this school year impact the future of Brent Venables?
Nobody knows, Connor. That's the thing. Nobody knows because Randall Stevenson, who's leading the hiring committee, is the longtime CEO of AT&T, and he was given this job, right? Chairman of football and advisor to the president and the athletics director. So he's leading the charge along with the president. Depending on who you listen to, uh, I don't believe this was all Joe C's decision. And I, as a longtime
Mm.
Joe C friend and fan, I don't want to hear that, but I believe that it wasn't entirely his decision. Um, I don't know how out of the box Stevenson's going to go. So to say Brent has to go 9-3, 8-4, I don't know that it's fair to say a number, because you know what happens when a new AD comes in. Uh, it may not matter what Brent does. I mean, I tend to believe he'll be fine if he shows that this team is clearly headed in the right way. If his hires on the offensive side are proven to be good hires, I think he'll be okay. Everybody loves him. Everybody roots for him. He's a phenomenal human being. Um, 6-6, I don't know that he's got a chance. 7-5, he may not. But once you get into that 8-9 win thing, it's ultimately going to come down to whoever replaces Joe C, and it'll be kind of their call. So exactly the impact on Brent, I don't think anybody has any idea.
Last year, I think it's fair to say the Tennessee game meant more for Josh Heupel than it did for Tennessee itself. And this year, the breakup game, and it's ironic that Oklahoma's first 2 years in the SEC, you get these huge headliner breakup type games in the first month of the season. SEC debut for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Um, I think the optics for Brent Venables can go in a lot of different directions based on how this Jackson Arnold breakup game plays out with Auburn and Oklahoma. What's the sense of the magnitude of that game and what it means for Oklahoma?
To me, and we have debates on the radio about this, to me, it's the biggest game of the first half of the season. It's bigger than Texas. It's bigger than Michigan. To me, it's the biggest game of the first half of the season. Cannot lose it. I don't. I think optics being terrible is probably even an understatement. You can't lose the game. You can't lose it because of where the two programs are, Auburn and Oklahoma. The two head coaches are, but the Jackson Arnold component to this makes it a game you cannot lose. He cannot walk onto that field and look comfortable and dice up a defense. It can't happen. Uh, Auburn cannot be a program that has seen to have been taking the step quicker than Oklahoma's taken the step, and not with Jackson as the quarterback. Michigan game. If you're going to tell me that OU is going to lose one game, either Michigan or Auburn, I'll take the Michigan L all day. It can't be Auburn. I think that is a massive, massive football game, and I don't know if the whole country realizes how big I think or how big it is, but it's not lost on me. Like, it cannot lose it, Connor. I mean, I think it's that simple.
Yeah, we had Ari Wasserman on, and I asked him best breakup game of the year, and he's like, that's it right
Mm-hmm.
there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's one you just can't miss. And you're right. It's different if Jackson Arnold had come back, 2 years later, 3 years later, he's coming back to Norman. But to be on the same field where a year earlier he's getting benched before halftime, it would be just the worst bit of optics for a defensive minded head coach if that's the guy that was supposed to be the first Oklahoma starting quarterback to start and finish his career in Norman since Landry Jones, like, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's doing these great things for Auburn. You're right. Like those conversations would escalate in a hurry if Brent Venables lost that one.
In a massive way. Yeah. I think even if they beat Michigan but lose that game and they're sitting at 3-1, I think it's a really bad situation and a bad look. And oh, by the way, you're 0-1 in league play, right? So, which is not what you want either. So, you know, I can't see a way right now that they don't win that game. Obviously, you start looking at things like that defense practiced against Jackson every day last year, and there's a lot of pieces back. Brent knows what Jackson can and cannot handle, right? So I can only imagine life will be very difficult for Jackson that day with the talent and the experience on defense and with Brent calling it. Um, so I have a hard time seeing them lose that game. Plus, you throw in the fact that Hugh Freeze was widely and has widely told people and started at media days, Connor, that, I'm basically asking my defensive coaches to take it easy on Jackson. We don't end practice without our quarterback feeling comfortable. And that to me is a sign that Jackson up here is not where a starting quarterback in the SEC should be. So I like Jackson a lot. Personally, I like him. I have a hard time seeing him really thrive in this league. If he does, um, let's as OU folks hope it's not the fourth game of the season. But I think that's a tough situation for him to walk back into.
You had the rare distinction of being someone who did not experience a winning season while you were in school at Oklahoma, which is
Yeah.
just bizarre. I mean, it's just wild. It's like I always tell people, like I went to Indiana and I experienced the worst 3-year stretch in program history because I was there from 08 to 12, and they figured things out by 12. But you never
Yeah.
even got like that season to exhale.
Mm-mm.
Is there a favorite or maybe a least favorite memory you have of that time? Because I think for
Yeah.
people like me, like I'm 35, I don't really remember that time of Oklahoma football, and it seems like a different program that experienced a time like that.
Well, fortunately, being 49 and going to games in the 80s with my grandparents or my dad, I had seen them win big in the Barry days. Yeah, the college years were tough. I mean, you're right. I did not see one. 5-1, 6-6, 3-8, 4-8. Those were the 4 seasons. Um, I do remember this one was bad, but it was also kind of good. So my dad went to the University of Tulsa and proud Golden Hurricane alum. And in 96, Tulsa came to Norman. And so I'll give you a good in about. So Tulsa came to Norman. And my dad came decked out in his blue and gold, and he was sitting with me in the student section and rooting like crazy for Tulsa. And and Wes Caswell caught a 99-yard touchdown pass down the sideline for Tulsa, and Tulsa beat OU that day in Norman. And my dad was beside himself, and so that was bittersweet because I grew up also going to Tulsa games with my dad. I loved Tulsa growing up, and so there was that. That same season, though, Connor, a game that I've rehashed on my show. I've had Justin Fuente, who was the quarterback that day, on my show with it, was 96 OU Texas. Oklahoma's 0-4 and a 22-point underdog to the number 25 ranked Longhorns. OU's down 11 with 6.5 minutes to go. Return a punt, Jarrell Jackson for a touchdown. Fuente to a tight end, Steven Alexander for 2. They're down 3. And then Jeremy Alexander hits a 45-yard field goal in the last minute and a half to tie the game, go to overtime. And James Allen, who 2 years before that at running back had gotten stuffed by big Stoney Clark on the half-yard line, this time James Allen plunges into the end zone for a 30-27 overtime win to go 1-4. 1-4. We'd lost at home to Tulsa, TCU, and Kansas. We're 1-4, and our half of the Cotton Bowl is celebrating like we had just won the Natty. And Justin Fuentes pumping his arm. It was the first win for John Blake over those guys, especially. So TU, bad. UT, great. Same year.
It's the beauty of college football, man, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's one thing. Like an NFL fan, you can't explain those stories to them. Like I come up with those examples all the time of like lost season, but then you remember those moments, and here you are talking about something like that 3 decades later, And
Yeah.
for a program that's had a ton of success since then, and it doesn't matter. Like, as much as I get into these conversations about, well, what does college football mean anymore, and like to regular season and stuff like that, and these wins and these moments, like that still has to stand out. And if OU has those this year, like OU had it last year by beating Alabama, and
Mm-hmm.
like those moments are still going to be held so near and dear for college football fans. But man,
Well,
like that's just wild to think
but
about.
it was amazing. But then that same year, Oklahoma State comes into Norman and beats them 12-0, and they hadn't won since 76. And this was 96. And then a bunch of OSU people start painting 12-0 all over our buildings and our sidewalks in the middle of the night. So we go to class on Monday, and all we are reminded of is 12 zip. They made bumper stickers. You could drive around, you see orange and black bumper stickers. It just simply said 12-0. I don't know, man. It was that dealing with OU football when I was a student there was like another class every year. You had to deal with the ups and the downs and the emotional baggage that they put you through.
That's why, look, that's why you're the voice of reason, not just for SEC Network, but Oklahoma football, because you've seen it all, man. Like you understand every side of it.
Man, oh man.
Let's get you out of here with a prediction, because you gotta host your show in a bit here, but
Yeah.
just kind of transport yourself to week 1, Saturday night, SEC football final. It's cranking up. You're doing the intro. You've got CD. You're flanked by, well, I guess you're not flanked. You got CD and Ben Watson both to your left, and Georgia Ole Miss game has just wrapped up. Georgia State Ole Miss, rather, has just wrapped up on SEC
Is that
Network.
our first primetime game?
7:45 SEC
Yeah.
Network.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Because LSU Clemson is going to be wrapping up as well, but that starts at 7:30. So I'm assuming,
Yeah.
maybe hurry up offense goes a little bit faster. Who knows? But
Maybe.
Saturday slate's over. What's the biggest SEC storyline that you guys are going to be talking about from the jump? And it can't just be simply, well, Texas played at Ohio State or LSU played against Clemson. Like, what's going to be the first thing you guys dig into?
It's how the league did in the two games that you just mentioned. It's LSU Clemson and it's Texas Ohio State. How did the league do, right? Those are significant because each team is playing a national championship contender. They both fancy themselves to be national championship contenders. So it's, does LSU break the 5-year opening game losing streak? What does Arch look like up there? It's in some order. It's those two games, probably depending on how they finish. LSU's late, so they might be earlier in the show. Texas, but if they win in Columbus, it's our lead. I mean, I think that's what we're talking about. And then the next day was South Carolina, Virginia Tech. I'm sure we'll talk about that too later in that Saturday night SEC football final. But no, it's in some order. It's going to be LSU and Texas. I would think will be the big stories to come out of that day.
Last one for you.
You're good.
Maybe this is a dumb question. Texas fans, Oklahoma fans, they don't root for each other. But week 1, will Oklahoma fans be rooting for Texas to beat Ohio State? Because that would be the ultimate sign that Oklahoma is officially a member of the SEC, that they're rooting for like a rival on a big stage, not a conference game, but on a big stage out of conference.
So what I've picked up by dealing with OU fans for 15 hours a week on a radio show, more closer than I have in 20 years, okay, is one, they will never root for Texas. But I have gone on the record and said, if that game was being played here, I would invite them to my front yard and I'd paint the field burnt orange because I want Texas to win that game so damn bad. 20% of OU fans will root for Texas that night. Maybe. They are not in this camp. I can't, and I'm trying every day to get them in this camp. They won't root for other SEC teams just because the rest of the league does. And I don't think you're ever going to hear SEC at an event in Norman, Oklahoma. So I'm trying to bring them around a little bit. They tell me they couldn't care less what the other SEC schools have always done. They're stubborn, but no, even Ohio State, I still think the majority will root for Ohio State, but I won't. I certainly won't be.
They got to get a more favorable schedule. Then they'll start chanting SEC.
Maybe, but yeah, I've even told them, I'm like, look, in this league, this is just the way it's always been. You can take it or leave it. Typically, the league roots for the league, but there's one team you refuse to root for, right? So Alabama, I'm sure, was not rooting for Auburn to beat Florida State in Pasadena, California in a national championship game. I get it. But like, give a little fist bump if South Carolina beats Virginia Tech. Give a little fist bump if LSU beats Clemson. They couldn't care less who wins those games, to be honest with you.
Look, I witnessed Chris Marler rooting for Auburn to kick off the season against Oregon. Okay. Like anything is possible. If he can do it as the most diehard Bama fan I ever have and ever will meet, then it can be done. Like minds could be changed. People change, with conference affiliation. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, Oklahoma fans never say never.
Maybe they just need to stop being angry about last season, and then things start settling into place a little bit, and then they'll start coming around, right? How are we? Their thought is, how do we root for teams to win when we're not doing it ourselves? We're jealous.
True.
Maybe that'll change. Yeah.
That's fair. Dari, you're the best. Hope you have an awesome fall. You're going to have plenty to talk about this year, man.
Bro, come back up and see us, man. You're always welcome in studio up there.
I would love to. I always talk about it all the time to people who are like, what do you get to do during the fall? I'm like, actually, like one of the coolest experiences I've had was SEC Network for the day. And I got to that 2019 and Marlon and I got to see the behind the scenes of everything and just watch a day of football with you guys. And it was the best. Would love to be able to do that again sometime soon.
Let me know when.
Love it, man.
All right, man.